You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
And it looks like we are live. Going to give John K. down there, Bawana Beast, the man behind the scenes, a second to get our Facebook group in. It looks like we got green check marks all the way across the board. Guys, mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome in to another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, and joining me as per usual is my good friend and colleague. He is Mile High Huddle's senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, what's going on, brother? How's everything out there in Alaska?
It's going good. Getting ready to take a vacation here in a couple weeks. Don't worry, it's going to be after the Trickle Zone, after Dove Valley Deep Divers. But, after everything for the draft, that big rush and everything, I got to take a break. We're going to go up to Anchorage. We're going to go to the zoo, take my daughter to the zoo. First time she'll be there. So I'm excited for it. Just counting down the time. It's been a long week with mixture of weather. But we have some news about the Broncos today to talk about a little bit. And then, of course, the schedule came out. And we have some good, bad, and ugly takes about the schedule and how it's broken down a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun show. I mean, obviously the big news and everything like that, but bigger news on my end, personally anyways. We are literally days away from closing on our house, so long as a little financial snafu that just came up the other day goes over clear and the house gets painted, and it's actually getting painted right now as we speak. So hopefully next week by Wednesday, I'm thinking is probably when we're going to be able to sign paperwork and close on our house. So I'm really excited about that. But guys, as far as the Broncos are concerned in the news, obviously the big piece of news that came just a couple of hours ago, actually, from I think it was it Mike Garafolo or Tom Pelissero? I can't remember exactly. It was Field Yates, excuse me. Field Yates broke it first at ESPN that Deshaun James has been released by the Broncos today after tearing that Achilles. This was an expected move. Erick, what else do you know about it?
I mean, as soon as he tore his Achilles, we knew he was going to be released. The issue was what's going to happen with the contract. Since it's considered a non-football injury, it was tapping away from team facilities. Seems like that they're going to use that to avoid his $10-point-some-odd million and not have to pay him anything. They're not going to go and try to recoup this part of the prorated signing bonus, which I think is a good move by Denver. But we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when. A little bit surprising they're using the June 1st designation a little bit, but hey, that's fine. And all the June 1st designation means is that he's allowed to go look for another team and everything. But the added cap space that the Broncos will get from releasing him by making that designation won't actually come in until after June 1st, which, hey, we're just a few weeks away from that anyway, so not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously spreading that cap hit out, I'm not exactly sure how it all works out. I think it's $10 million this year, is it $7 million next year or something like that? I'd have to look it over thecap.com, and that's on me for not getting that pulled up. Erick, we got some funny sound coming from your end. I'm not sure what that is. Let me mute you down really fast. Anyways, not exactly sure what's going on there. Apologies, guys. We do apologize for that. But with Deshaun James, the money being spread out now over 2 years, obviously the Broncos did well for themselves to go out and go get a pair of offensive tackles in Bobby Massey, formerly of Chicago, and then Cam Fleming, formerly he was with the New England Patriots, so they won a Super Bowl together, and then was with I think the New York Giants, his most recent stops. Couple of athletic guys that can move around. There's some high-end potential with Fleming if he can get some better technique rounded up. Now, Erick, I'm going to bring it back in here. As far as Cam Fleming, what intrigues you the most? I know they broke down Bobby Massey the other day. So what about Cam Fleming really intrigues you?
I mean, Cam Fleming he's a guy who at one point he had a pretty high pedigree. I shouldn't say high pedigree. He was an interesting player. He had a solid year, but last couple of years have been kind of down a little bit. So interesting to see that they brought him in. It was added depth. I mentioned it on Twitter. He allowed one pressure every 16 snaps or something like that this last year, which isn't bad. I mean, DeMar Dotson was once every 22 point something. So it's not a big step back or anything, but he's there just to add competition with Bobby Massey for the starting right tackle job. Both of them did better than Calvin Anderson on a pressure per snap basis. Maybe Anderson takes this big step forward, but Denver needed depth. After Deshaun James got hurt, they only had 4 offensive tackles. They needed players. They needed bodies. They went in. They got Drew Himmelman as an undrafted free agent, who was one of them. They brought in Ryan Pope. They brought in Bobby Massey, and they brought in Cameron Fleming. Maybe they bring in another body, too. I'm not 100% sure they're absolutely done there either.
Yeah, and as Mike jumping in here says, it screams open competition. I mean, that quite honestly, everyone's talking about the quarterback competition right now, but the right tackle competition is going to be one that is going to be headline grabbing as well all the way throughout training camp. I mean, Bobby Massey I think he's 31 years old, has played in the NFL for 8 seasons, has started 110 total games. Last year played pretty well. I think he only gave up like 1 or 2 sacks or something like that, even on a bad offensive line. Really good length and fluid mover. He can get out in front of the screen game. I think that's probably the odds-on favorite as of right now to take the job. But Fleming, again, I mean, there's a lot of upside with him. He's got to work on his footwork. He's got to work on his hand technique, but he's got crazy athleticism for a guy that is his size. And it's going to be really fun to see how this all plays out. Eric, that actually sounds a little bit better now. It's going to be fun to see how this all plays out. And now, on the other side of that, the Broncos had another interesting piece of news hit the wire earlier today with wide receiver Deshaun Hamilton tearing his ACL. And now, why it might be kind of a surprise to everybody. Because there were rumors that he had gotten waived, or there was a report that he had gotten waived. Well, actually, the Broncos decided to not make that move because there was a trade talk. And I believe that Benjamin Albright put on his Twitter account that the 49ers and the Broncos were working on a trade to move Deshaun Hamilton to San Francisco. But he goes out and he's working out on his own, similarly to Juwan James here, and he ends up tearing his ACL. Eric, are we going to see another situation with Deshaun Hamilton where he's probably going to end up just being waived anyways with no money coming to him because he wasn't working out at the team facility?
Yeah, I don't think that it was a similar situation as Juwan James in the first place. But now that he's hurt, he was working away from team facilities. Yeah, I think he's gone. And the big thing here is that a lot of people want to blame the Broncos. It's not the Broncos' fault. It's the NFLPA's. They're the ones who sat there. They agreed to it. And it's been a standard practice in contracts for a long time now. If they don't like it, the NFLPA should have tried harder to not have that be part of the collective bargaining agreement.
No, absolutely. I mean, we just got done going through the collective bargaining agreement last year. They just agreed to this new deal. It's I think a 10-year deal or something like that. So if they want to have any kind of appeal or any kind of contest to this situation and this decision, they have no one else to blame but other themselves. And they are the ones. The NFLPA are the ones that said, all right, you got, like, everyone was going to be coming in for OTAs, and the NFLPA said, guys, stay away from these. The product last year was still great, even though we did all virtual meetings and the OTAs and everything like that. The NFL scored more touchdowns than ever before. I mean, the product was as good as it's ever been, and people tuned in at a record clip, obviously because there weren't people in the stands because of what was going on in the world. But at the same time, so the NFLPA said, guys, stop going to these. Go work out on your own. I mean, that's what you guys are doing anyways. Go work out on your own, do your own private workouts and stuff like that. Communicate with your teams and take that chance. Well, Juwan James took that chance. Deshaun Hamilton took that chance, and it literally now is biting him in the ass. Like, quite literally, they're going to be on the outside looking in for this season. So, I mean, the NFLPA really needs to kind of step up here. And Juwan James put a tweet out earlier today, and I kind of agree with him on this one. The NFLPA is the one that advised him to do this. Well, why aren't you having his back now? You know what I mean? Go after and go help this guy, because he's on $10 million in salary this year. The Broncos don't have to pay him a dime because of their advice. So what are they going to do to recoup some of that money, if at all possible, or even then try to figure out some kind of a stipend for him to replace the money that he was supposed to be making? Where is the fallout from this going to stop? That's my
they're going to file a grievance. But what's going to happen with that grievance? Not much is going to happen, because it's what the NFLPA advised. Like, they set it up for failure. I don't see, like, I understand that there's a reason there for a grievance, because now his money's void and everything, all that stuff, but it's their own fault. Like, how can you pretend to have their back here? Like, I don't know. It's just stupid to me. But before we move on to our main point of conversation, I want to say hello to some people in the chat.
Yeah.
Here. Ernie Mays, of course. Hello, Broncos world. Thank you, Ernie, for joining us, man. You're always a good friend of the show. You're always joining here. Mike Derringer, bye, Felicia. Yeah, bye, Felicia to Juwan James. That's definitely right. Mike S. was saying, sup, JD. Good riddance, to have fun with your 17 mil for 63 snaps. Man, I've been preaching that for a long time. I don't know how many times I made comments about his 63 snaps and jokes about that. Malcolm Brown coming in from Homer, Alaska, but he's currently in Kansas. Right, Kansas?
Yeah, he said that he was in Ogden.
Ogden, Kansas. Hope you're having a good time with all your grandkids down there and everything like that. Dave Glassman says, what's up, Ernie? DVDD. Hey, man, we're here ready to enjoy the show. Hope you're ready to enjoy it as well. Black Knight coming in on Twitch. Always love the support we get on Twitch and everything. And those of you who have a Twitch, go and subscribe to us on Twitch. I mean, it's free to do, and then you guys can go or like it, follow it. I can't remember what the actual terminology is on Twitch, but you can do something there, and you can follow us for free or anything like that. But we got to grow that Twitch audience a little bit.
Well, also, guys, Black Knight 323 is a video gamer. He's on his Twitch account right now watching this. So make sure you guys follow Black Knight 323 and go follow him when I think he's playing Warzone or something. So I can't remember what video game he's playing. He was actually in a competition. StarCraft, that's it. Was in a competition, a tournament a few months ago, and I think he took like second or third places. So congratulations to him. And guys, make sure you guys are following Black Knight as well. John, do you have Muhammad's super sticker? Just one sec. Okay, we'll come back to that here in just a second. Right after, let's get started with the schedule breakdown. Now, guys, the other day, what was it? Wednesday, I believe, or no, yesterday, Wednesday, whatever the heck day it was. My days are bleeding together right now.
Real quick, I want to say thank you, Gary Leeds, for the stars, man. We definitely support you. Those of you who are our Facebook supporters are able to donate stars, and we really appreciate that support. We appreciate the support through everything.
Yeah, man. I was just gonna say, what's up, Gary? Anyways, the other day, the NFL released the full 17 game slate for the Denver Broncos, and they gave them a gift right off the bat, man. This is the good and the bad and the ugly for the Broncos schedule. Weeks 1, 2, and 3, they have a away game against the New York Giants, obviously on Sunday, September 12th. And then at the Jacksonville Jaguars, so a back-to-back road stretch to start the season, and then a home game against the New York Jets. So those are 3 teams that we're picking highly in this year's NFL draft, and it's pretty decent present for the Broncos to have an easy stretch of the schedule to start out the season after they've had, notorious struggles in September. Eric, what do you think?
I mean, obviously, it's not just that they're getting started up against 3 teams that were picking high. It's those quarterbacks. I mean, you get Daniel Jones, who's just a middling quarterback at best, and probably a quarterback that the Giants are going to be looking at upgrading after this season. Then you have 2 rookies. Yes, they're the first and second overall pick. Yes, one of them is Trevor Lawrence, but they're still rookies. Yep. Going against one of the defenses that veterans fear to go against, has full of talent, and this is a good time for the Broncos defense to step up and start putting things together. And I mean, with all the new pieces that they have, especially in the secondary, it's a good learning experience for them, and they should be able to bring the heat. As long as they get turnover-free play, or at least limited turnover-free or turnover play from their quarterback position and solid play from there, it's not unrealistic to expect them to go 3-0 out of these first 3 weeks. They should, because Denver, on paper, outside of the quarterback position, is a much better team. They just need the safetiness, the safe play, the lack of turnovers from the quarterback position. And it doesn't matter if it's Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock; they just can't turn the ball over.
Right? No, exactly. It's kind of a weird deal because obviously with Drew Lock last year, he threw 15 or 16 interceptions in 12 games. That's more than an interception a game, guys. Like if he can stop turning the football over and potentially stop fumbling the football, make better decisions, and just keep the offense in rhythm and keep them in flow. I mean, this team could take a massive step forward. We're coming back. Courtland Sutton's going to be healthy. You've got obviously Javonte Williams in the draft. You're going to have Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, KJ Hamler, all those guys taking that next step forward. As far as their development goes, the offensive line is shored up completely. I mean, we'll find out what it looks like with Bobby Massey, Cameron Fleming at the right tackle position. I mean, and then that defense. I mean, what are the 2 easiest ways to have successful, outside of quarterback play, what are the 2 easiest ways to have successful football seasons? Play elite defense and run and control the football. If you want to keep Patrick Mahomes from scoring a whole bunch of points, play really good defense and run the football and keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. So again, with these 2 rookies, I mean, they're going up against a defense that is feared by many. I mean, even coaches, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, they've all said Vic Fangio scheming that defense. If they're healthy and they have all those horses ready to run, I tell you what, man, that defense is going to be legit scary. And if the offense can just figure it out and go against these bad teams early and get into a rhythm quick, this team could win a lot of games very, very quickly.
And something else that I feel is a good aspect about this is the placement of the bye week. Having it week 11, I think that's a just about perfect placement. Week 10 is perfect, so week 9, week 11, you can kind of get away with there. But it's also a good balance of home and away games.
Yep.
There's not this lopsided thing of 4 or 5 game streaks on the road or at home. It's pretty good balance. I think the most they have is 2. They have 2 games on the road to start. They have a couple of home games. Then they have constantly back and forth. I like that aspect to it. I like the balance there. And another thing that I like is that they have 7 games against teams that were bottom 10 in turnover differential. This bodes well for the Broncos if they can play safe football and improve their ability to get takeaways on the defense. The issue is that the Broncos for 2020 were dead last in turnover differential. So even though they're bottom 10, these 7 games, it still was better than Denver, but hopefully we're seeing that improvement needed from the Broncos this year to help them out. Now moving on to a bad bit a little bit. We talked about those first 3 weeks, but following that, there's a 4-game series there that's just not the best for the Broncos. They have a gauntlet of the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Las Vegas Raiders, and then the Cleveland Browns. The Raiders, I mean, say what you want about Derek Carr, but that offense, they should be able to put points on the board. The question is, can they have the defense to stop them? And the Raiders, for the last couple of years, they tend to start out hot, and then they start to collapse about week 8, week 9, so that's a bit of a slight concern there. But Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Cleveland Browns, those are 3 teams that can be very tough for the Broncos. Obviously, the Pittsburgh game is going to really depend on what we get out of Big Ben. And he's a guy who he started to show that major drop-off in play last year. So hopefully we see that continue. But that just isn't the ideal gauntlet. I mean, and having those next 4 games after the first 3, it just really points to the fact that the Broncos, they have to start off this season going 3-0 if they really want a chance for the playoffs with Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to grab this super sticker from Muhammad while we got it pulled up. Thanks, John. I appreciate you, buddy. $1.99 super chat here with a microphone. Mic drop, essentially, there is what Mo's trying to say. Mo, thanks for joining us, man. As always, you are, as I like to say, the king of the super stickers. Now, going back to what you had just said about the Broncos and the turnover differential, I mean, they had 32 total turnovers last year and only 16 takeaways. When you're having a 2-to-1 turnover to takeaway ratio, you're not going to win very many football games, guys. It's just being plain and simple about that. Now, something I do want to kind of get back into just a little bit was it's an away, home and home first 4 games, and the Broncos are going to go into just a wicked stretch in the AFC North because the Browns, they're a much improved football team. They're a playoff team from last year. The Ravens, everybody knows what they're capable of. High explosive offense. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we'll see what that actually looks like, but I mean, that's just a brutal stretch right there. And then you throw the Raiders in there, and I believe is that game is at home. So you'll be away versus the Ravens home versus the Ravens at the Steelers, home versus the Raiders, and then at Cleveland on a short turnaround Thursday night football. And what bodes best for short turnarounds in Thursday night football games? Teams that have a really good defense and can run the football. So that's going to be a battle of 2 pretty decent heavyweights and up-and-coming teams, especially if the Broncos can have improved quarterback play with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. So that's kind of a bad stretch there. But following right after that, you get all of the rest of the NFC East. So this is a good stretch where you've got the Washington football team in week 8. You have the Dallas Cowboys in week 9. And week 10, you have the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you're on a bye. So that you have a really easy stretch, a gauntlet in the middle, and then another really easy stretch before you hit your bye week, before you get into what is really the worst part of this entire schedule for the Broncos.
See, my issue with calling those 3 games against the NFC East teams as an easy thing is Dak Prescott's back for the Cowboys.
That's true.
And Washington, they're on the right trend because they still got to figure out that quarterback position, but they're on the right trend with the rest of the team. And quite frankly, Chase Young this year with the uncertainty at right tackle is a little bit scary. I wouldn't call that easy. I wouldn't call it a bad or ugly thing about it, but definitely not easy. Now, for me, it's, you have that bye week at week 11, which is really good. But when you come back from that and having to face Justin Herbert and then go to Kansas City and take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, that is a little bit bothersome. It's not the best thing that you want for the Broncos right there. You kind of want them to, after having that bye week, just a little bit of an easy game. Maybe Detroit or Cincinnati would have been ideal there. I mean, Cincinnati with Joe Burrow would have been really perfect. Just enough of a challenge, but it's having those 2 is a little bit bothersome. And then you start the East. Then the bad thing, too, is that you're starting on the East Coast the first 2 weeks. And Denver historically is not that good on the East Coast. That's true. And I believe they're supposed to be early games too, which makes it even worse for them. That's a bad thing for them.
The Giants game is actually a 2:25 kickoff time for Mountain Time, so that's the late afternoon. But they do have the early game at Jacksonville, and then in Week 5 they have the early game at Pittsburgh as well. I'm looking at the schedule right now, and then Week 9 they have another early game at Dallas. So not quite the fly across the entire country and start on the East Coast, but still the 11 o'clock early games. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those this year because the game at Kansas City Week 13 is also an early kickoff, and like you said, the Broncos are notorious for playing poorly in the early windows of those games. Is that game in December? The Kansas City game? It is December 5th, and the Broncos don't play very well in December in Kansas City. I mean, that's one of the hardest places to play in all of the NFL. So there's another one. Another bad that I want to get here. Outside of the mandatory Thursday night football game, every single team will always get one primetime game every single year. It's a Thursday night football game. Every single team plays on Thursday night every single year. So the Broncos are going to get their one mandatory primetime game. They don't get anything outside of that. This ends a 29-year stretch of the Broncos playing on Monday Night Football. It's the longest streak in NFL history. That ends this season. And there's no chance for them to flex into another game like that. Even if they do go get an Aaron Rodgers, they can flex into the They can flex into a Sunday night football game and they potentially earn another primetime game that way. But for the most part, the Broncos are only going to be playing in front of a national audience like that one time this season. So that's another bad part. But that just comes with, as James Campbell likes to say in our group chat all the time, that comes with the Broncos being irrelevant right now. They're not a good football team. They're not fun to watch. The quarterback is not necessarily a highlight kind of a guy. Their head coach is more just ho-hum, not really going to give you a good quote or anything like that. It's Vic Fangio, a defensive-minded football team. Defense doesn't sell. Offense sells. I mean, that's the sexy way of football right now, is scoring a whole bunch of points. The Broncos aren't doing that, and they're not necessarily stopping teams from scoring a bunch of points, except for when they get into the red zone. They had the number one red zone defense in the NFL last year. Is that going to be something that's going to be a marquee thing that people want to actually watch all the time? Oh, wow, the Broncos just let up 75-yard drive, but they stopped them at the one. That's cool. No, that's not what people want to watch, guys. So that's another part of the bad stuff with this Broncos schedule, is that they lose that because they are not very good football team. They lose that primetime coverage, and it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of the state of where the Broncos are right now.
Yeah, you can be bad but exciting and still get primetime games, or you can be good and boring and get primetime games, and you can even be good and exciting and get primetime games. You cannot be both, and Denver, unfortunately, is both. It's that simple. And guys, before we wrap up our main conversation, we want to take it to you guys and your questions. So make sure you guys get your super chats in with any questions that you have, talking about anything, draft. Hey, if you even want to look forward to 2022, I'm down for that. If you want to recap this year's draft, if you want to talk whatever you want to talk about, make sure you get your super chats in and we'll take your questions.
Here. George Marabi jumping in here, just saying, what's up? How's it going, Broncos country? Andy Cowick jumping in here and says, if they start 3-0 and play Baltimore tough, then I'll feel good about the team going forward. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. If they start 3-0, those are games that they should win. And then they play Baltimore tough and then lose, I mean, which is definitely a possibility. The Baltimore Ravens are a very good football team. So if they come into that first four stretch coming out of September at 3-1, and they're looking like a team that's on the rise, that I would be very, very impressed, and I'd be quite honestly a little bit surprised, to tell you the truth, because I think that the Broncos might actually drop that game to the New York Giants. There's a definite possibility that road game to start it off. And Daniel Jones may not be the best quarterback in the entire league, but I mean, he's at least efficient with what he does, and he doesn't turn the football over. He moves the ball with his legs a little bit. So there's an opportunity for the Broncos to lose that game, especially if Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater comes out flat. And now if the Broncos go and get Aaron Rodgers, this is a completely different story. They should be winning all four of those games handily, quite honestly, because the Broncos offense has enough weapons with AR-12 that they would be a probably top 5 offense. So I could definitely see, I definitely agree with Andy here, though. If they go 3-0 and then play Baltimore tough, then I'd be pretty impressed with that. Happy birthday to Rich. The happy belated birthday to Rich. Where's that at here? Richie Rich is jumping in here and said, got to check out DVDD. Happy Friday, everybody. Chase Wellner, man, we have to play Pittsburgh in back-to-back years. Yeah, and the Broncos should have won that first game last year. They should have won that game against Pittsburgh last year for sure. Eric, do you see anything you want to grab here really quick?
I don't see anything. I do want to go back and touch up on the comment you made about the Giants and everything and potentially dropping that. I definitely could, but I don't think it's going to be because Daniel Jones plays safe, because he's not exactly a safe quarterback. I mean, he still had a high number of turnover-worthy plays last year. He didn't do that good of a job. I mean, only 6 interceptions. 10 interceptions, but he's and 11 touchdowns. Like, he doesn't really protect the ball all that well. But the thing is that defense really started to come around late as the season went on.
Mm-hmm.
They added some good pieces to it. So I'm more interested about that defense, how whatever quarterback is going to be able to handle them. I can still see Denver dropping this one, but I think it's going to be a defensive battle. And I don't think either team scores more than 17, 20 points.
No, I that's not what I was trying to say. I mean, that's a game that I can see the Broncos losing just for a couple reasons. I mean, not prepared coming out of the gates. That rust, having to shake the cobwebs off and going against a pretty decent opponent on the road. I will say decent more than like tough opponent, because they are not necessarily one of the best teams in the NFL, but they were better than the Broncos last year. So there is that. Pull that comment back from Malcolm Brown. Here we go. $2 super chat from Malcolm Brown. Will colleges start using the Fangio defense? Man, I don't know. They play.
Yes, they already are.
Okay, so go ahead and elaborate.
So there's quite a few colleges. I mean, it's not the same exact match quarters Vic Fangio runs. They have their own spin on it, but yeah, we're starting to see teams more and more do that. It's being viewed as one of the ways to help stop the spread offenses that we're seeing in colleges. And it's just because of how it sets up the matchups and everything like that, and the potential for turnover where they plays and stuff like that. So we're starting to see it more and more, and just a little bit of different spin. I mean, we're never going to see an exact carbon copy of an offense anywhere, because everybody always wants the player always wants to put their same own spin on it. I mean, New York Jets, their offense is going to be very similar to what the 49ers do, but they're going to have their own unique spin to it, just as Kyle Shanahan's has its own unique spin compared to Mike Shanahan's. It's just the way it is. But yeah, they're starting to use it because of how they view it and how it can get turnovers and matches up well with spread.
Well, let's see. I know that Iowa is using some quarters coverage a lot, and that's one of the big reasons why Michael Ojemudia was deemed as a high-quality scheme fit. Syracuse does run a lot of cover 4. UCF runs a lot of cover 4. And you're right, it's not necessarily the same. You're really kind of just straight linear cover 4. It's not that match quarters where you're passing off coverages and stuff like that nearly as much as what Vic Fangio likes to do. But yeah, there are some teams that are starting to use that. And now that I think about it a little bit more, yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's see here. We had another super chat. I think it was coming from. Is it from Muhammad? Oh, Muhammad dropping another super sticker. We can't lose to the Giants, he says. $3 super chat with the thumbs up, man. No, I feel you, man. I feel you.
Sorry, if we lose to the Giants, the Jaguars, or the Bengals this season, it's going to be that point where you got to kind of put that brown bag over your head a little bit. Like, that's a little rough.
Well, I mean, the Broncos finished 5-11 last year, picking number 9 overall, and they have the Giants were 12 or 10 or whatever the hell they were drafting at. I know it was in the top 15, and then you have the Jags and the Jets, and those were both top 5, the first and second overall picks right there to start your season. You should be winning at least 2 of those games. Like, quite honestly, you really should. Even though I do like what the Jags did, they went and got Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. They had a pretty decent draft. So they're
okay. No. I'm going to interrupt you there. Getting Travis Etienne was not a good move by them because they have the GOAT in James Robinson.
I forgot. But
seriously, joking aside, that was not a good move by them. I don't care familiarity for the new quarterback or whatever. I don't care about that. That was a bad move. Taking a player who, yeah, I liked him quite a bit. But you don't take a running back in the first round, especially when you had.
Eric, I lost you there for a second. I'm not sure if are we good here? Not exactly sure what's going on. Sorry about that, guys. We're having some technical difficulties here. I'm going to grab this super chat from Andy Calick while I got an opportunity. $5 super chat. Apologies, guys. Thoughts on Baron Browning starting out at inside linebacker, and do you think he ends up snagging a starting role at some point during the year? That's where I would play him. I mean, he's got the versatility to be able to come up and be a good blitzer off the edge, and he can play off the edge. He's a good blitzer up the middle, but still that coverage versatility, the ability of him to drop back into those coverage zones and start as an inside linebacker. I think that's what they're going to do, but I don't necessarily know if he's going to start right away. He's still got to learn this Vic Fangio defense, which is incredibly complex, guys. Like there's a lot of verbiage that comes with it. There's a lot of responsibility that happens to come with it. It's just, for a guy that was a slower processor in college, where he was not more see ball, chase ball than actually like a read and react kind of a player, than processing pre-snap and getting to where his depths were in his coverage responsibilities and stuff like that. Like, there's a learning curve that he's going to have. There was a video I saw, it was on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, that had him working out with the inside linebackers, doing some inside linebackers drills today at rookie minicamp. So that would be probably more of the direction that I would lean for him. But I mean, I know that Vic Fangio has said that he is going to be using him all over the place and all over the defense because he does have that versatility. Grab another one here. Eric, are you still here? No, he's still not here. Okay. Crudum jumping in here with $1.99 donation. Excited for Denver versus Pitt. I'll be there cheering. Hey, man, that'd be great. I would love to be able to go and go to a game here soon. Financially not feasible for me right now, but at the same time, if I do get the opportunity to go down and see a game, it would be great to be able to link up with any one of you guys here watching the show today. I really want to go down and hang out with some of the other guys on the other networks and stuff like that. I would love to see Ben Albright and Ryan and all those guys as far as going to the DNVR bar and everything like that. But to be able to go to a game, man, that'd be really good stuff, man. I would love to, and congratulations. Let's see here. Facebook user jumping in here. Who do you think starts at right guard in week 1? Graham Glasgow. Honestly, yeah. I think that Lloyd Cushenberry is going to continue to hold that spot down at the center position, even though the Broncos did go and get Quinn Miners. And that's going to be a competition, too. That's going to be a fun competition to watch. But you have that year in Pat Shurmur's scheme. Lloyd Cushenberry has a year with Lauren Landau now to get stronger. I think that Cushenberry is going to hold that center spot down for now, at least. But I do think Graham Glasgow is starting at right guard. Eric, what do you think? Good to have you back.
Yeah. It's gonna be Graham Glasgow. I mean, Nathaniel Moody, I mean, he still has just quite a bit to work on. And Quinn Miners, if he starts, I think they're looking at him more for the center position. With the talk that Lloyd Cushenberry is a little bit soft and Quinn Miners not, I think that definitely is the way that they're going to be looking at going there. And then going back about Baron Browning, you answered that question or thing, which I'm a little mad at you for taking that when I was having mic issues. But I mean, when we had Luke on last week, a good friend of the podcast, Luke Poglace, and he was talking about it. I mean, he and I are in agreement here. You start Baron Browning out at inside linebacker because of the athleticism and coverage ability that he could potentially bring. You want that from him first and foremost. He doesn't have the consistency to be used as an edge. He just doesn't. And Denver doesn't run the right scheme to use him as an edge in this. I mean, if they change schemes, then maybe you can use, if they go to a more 4-3 front standard, you can kind of see him as a Sam. I think he can work well as there, but not as an edge in this. As a strong inside linebacker, what Alexander Johnson does, I think that is the perfect spot for him for this year. And then potentially you can move him over to that weak inside linebacker spot that Josie Jewell currently mans. But it's the best way to go about it. And that leads to the question from Mike Derringer for $4.99. We appreciate that, Mike. He says, thanks for the pod. How are we feeling about inside linebacker? We look solid on defense. I really like it. I like how Denver looks at inside linebacker. I mean, do I wish that we had more known there? Yeah, because Alexander Johnson, he's not that good in coverage. Josie Jewell, he is what he is. We're relying on Baron Browning making this step to the NFL and being able to pick up the defense and improve his reads, and we're relying on Justin Strnad as well. And that, to me, makes me a little bit uncomfortable. But overall, I like how it looks. I like the potential of Baron Browning. That's why I'm okay with it.
Easy on the Justin Strnad slander here, buddy. Come on, man. He was playing pretty well. No, I understand. It's a rookie guy, smaller guy, ball hockey, kind of a more. I don't necessarily know if I'd call him a hybrid, but he is a smaller linebacker. I think he only plays about 225 pounds at Wake Forest.
235.
235. Okay. He just seems like slight of frame. Like he has a frame that you could put some more weight to him and actually help him out. But in that true coverage role, that Josie Jewell role, the one that Josie Jewell played last year, really the Roquan Smith role would be the way that I would look at that a little bit better for a better comparison. But no, I definitely agree with you as far as Baron Browning playing that, Alexander Johnson rotating in with him, and then potentially taking over that role after this year. Because as we all know, Alexander Johnson is on a restricted free agent deal, so this could potentially be his last year in Denver if they don't want to go out and drop the money on him. I think he's making $4.2 million or something like that on a second round restricted free agent tender. I can't remember, but that, I mean, quite honestly, that's pushing some things, honestly, like for real. Alexander Johnson, for as good as he is at what he does, that A gap blitzer, the run stuff defender, for what he does there. I think that's a little bit much. I don't know that the Broncos need to extend that other offer for him, especially when you have Baron Browning coming in on a rookie deal, and you're going to get the same production, if not even better production, because he has that ability to drop back into coverage. Eric, what do you think? Like, you're shaking your head. You're like, "Ooh, that's a bad take." I don't think so.
No. I'm shaking my head about the take from James here.
Oh, okay.
Feel good about Curtis Robinson. Athletic comp very close for. Yeah, Curtis Robinson's not good. Like, you're looking at him for maybe special teams, and that's it. Like, he isn't good. He's been playing at Stanford for like 50 years too. Like, he's definitely older. Not a big fan of his. He was a guy that he didn't end up graded for me because I watched enough games to grade him, but it was just too terrible for me to actually grade.
Yeah. So Gary Smith jumping in here. I haven't seen Curtis Robinson, so I'm not going to speak on him. I don't speak on players that I haven't at least seen a game of, because I just don't like doing that. I want to have at least an informed opinion, and particularly I like to talk about guys that I've seen at least 3 games on. So not going to speak on Curtis Robinson because I haven't really studied him. But Gary Smith jumping in here with a very interesting comment, and I actually agree with him here. Vaughn has a knack for coming back from an injury and balling out. I mean, look at what happened in 2013. He had that 6-game suspension for using, I think it was ecstasy. It was a PED suspension is what he had. Or the substance abuse policy, 6 games for substance abuse policy. Anyways, then he tore his ACL against the Houston Texans, was sidelined for the Super Bowl, and he was playing very well even when he did play. But then he came back the next year and just went on an absolute rampage. I think he had like 14 sacks, 15 sacks, something like that, and it has played very well. And then obviously in 2015 was just ridiculous. I mean, it's just insane to watch him come. So to see him come back, now he's got a full year worth of rest. He's been working out. It sounds like he's in the best shape of his life. And I know that people say that all the time, but when he showed up to camp last year, Von Miller was ripped. Like, he was in a different body type. He completely changed his body type, got leaner, got more explosive, and it was looking like he was just going to be on an absolute tear. And now he's got 2 years worth of fresh legs, even though he is coming off of a major ankle injury. That dislocated peroneal tendon that he had is a big deal. But when you're fresh like that and you can come off the edge with that same, if he has that same speed and speed to power conversion in the bend, man, Vaughn could be on an absolute rampage this year as well, which would be very good news for this Broncos defense.
Von Miller messing with his body type and his build is never a good idea, because he did that in 2013, got hurt. He did it last year, got hurt. He needs to stop. Like, honestly, sometimes your body type, if you change it, it just leads to injuries. You're not used to playing at that. You carry your weight differently, and it leads to injuries. And we're seeing that with Von Miller. I hope he comes back and has a big year this year, but I think comparing the potential that he has this year to 2014 is way off. He's like, what, 7 years older now? Like, that's a big difference for an edge rusher. I think he'll come back. I think he'll have a good year. I actually have an article about what the expectations for Von Miller actually are, where I took a look at other edge rushers over the last few years who are similar in age. I don't think I got anybody who was coming back from an injury, though, and looking at what they did. And I mean, 56 to 60 pressures with about 7, 8, 9 sacks would be a good year for him at his age at the position he plays.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you on that one. If he does hit double-digit sacks, it'd be really nice, especially because he's going to take some more of the pressure away from Bradley Chubb on the other side. And Chubb, I mean, he played very well last year. He was, I think, top 5 in pressures or something like that. Like, he didn't get the production, but he was always around the football and causing hell in the backfield. So if you can get Von Miller on the other side playing at even 75% of what Von Miller was in 2015, I mean, Bradley Chubb's going to eat too, because he didn't have anybody on the other side. Jeremiah Tauchi wasn't playing very well. Malik Reed did play well, but a lot of what he got was just cleaning up stuff from Bradley Chubb, tearing stuff up on the other side. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy there, because I do think Bradley Chubb is primed to have a really big season this year. I mean, give him full health, give Von Miller full health, and that the interior defensive line, Shelby Harris coming back, Mike Purcell as well, Draymond Jones potentially taking that next step up. That pass rush could get just absolutely insane. So, I mean, I definitely agree with you, though. I mean, if Von Miller gets 45, 50 pressure or something like that, then 9, 10
that's
sacks.
Still a good year.
That's
just so you know, the guy who is at Von Miller's age, drafted in, and this is looking at players drafted in 2011 or earlier. The guy who led last year, Cam Jordan, in total pressures, only had 56.
Yeah, I mean that's
a good year. It's an extra game. I mean, that's still a good year. And I just got to point out that the best way to talk about Malik Reed and how he played is he played well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of what he got was just cleaning up stuff on the other side because he was still a liability in the running game. He was better than he was as a rookie, but he was still a liability in the running game. He just doesn't have that functional strength to hold up on the edge against the run. So they knew if they had a prime running down, 2nd and 6, something like that, run it to Malik Reed's side, you're going to get 6 yards. Like they already knew that was going to happen. So it's like I said, it's that weird dichotomy.
The average of running to the side that Malik Reed was on, I saw the stat a couple weeks ago, and it was an average of just over 7 yards. It was like 7.23 yards average per rush when running towards Malik Reed. Like, just not good.
And they did it like 47% of the time too. Like they would run at Malik Reed. Not that's so running the C gap. I guess it should say off tackle, running towards the C gap, the B and C gap, which is where Malik Reed plays. Like you can't have that, guys. You cannot have that. Let's see here. What can we find? What do we got here? Is our D line undersized from Chase Wellner here?
No.
No. Let's see. Mike Purcell weighs 325 pounds, and then Shelby Harris is like 315, I think. Draymond Jones is 315, and Draymond Jones is a small guy at like 295, 300. Like he's a big guy too, but so I can see where you say like undersized because they're not like the big, huge, bulky guys like a Vince Wilfork type. But Draymond Jones, he's a big dude and he's built like a brick, what house. Like he's a pretty big dude. And again, that's another guy. I think the Broncos are going to really reap the rewards of him taking that jump. Everyone all said it was going to be last year. He was going to have that breakout season. I think losing Purcell and also Vaughn on either side of him really kind of hurt. Like that, obviously, losing Von Miller hurt.
He started to show that breakout last year. Then he started to get nagged by injuries and everything like that, which is actually earlier than expectations because expectations for defensive linemen is about 2.5 years before they really break out. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we see a step forward from McDelvin Najim, who's got good size to him. But yeah, the D-line's not undersized by any means. I mean, it's not a bunch of massive 350-pound guys, but you can't have a defensive line of 350-pound guys. I think would say that undersized in terms of height a little bit and length, but the weight, they definitely got that weight. They got that bulk.
Yeah, absolutely. Blank jumping in here on Twitch with some emojis. Just wanted to say hey to another one of our Twitch users here. And then I got a quick question here from Robert Caslow, who always comes in with pretty good questions here. This one, little drop of ball on that one because the AFC West teams do have some pretty hardcore running games, especially and particularly the Las Vegas Raiders. Josh Jacobs is a monster. That offensive line, though, they did lose some pieces on that offensive line. They brought back Richie Incognito. They traded away Gabe Jackson and Rodney Hudson. So the interior of their offensive line, and they also traded away Trent Brown too. So the whole right side of their offensive line is now gone. So, I mean, it could be a little bit different this year, but the Raiders, I mean, they also went and got Kenyon Drake from the Cardinals, who was a pretty decent running back. They paid him way too much money to be a backup, but also, I mean, you have a dynamic 1-2 punch in Josh Jacobs and then Kenyon Drake as well. And that's the brand of football they like to do, run the football and play ball control with Derek Carr. And I mean, that's a good one. Kansas City isn't quite hardcore, but they're the finesse that they use in their inside zone schemes and stretching the field with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I like that a lot as well. The Chargers now, we don't talk about the Chargers on this podcast. No, nobody likes the Chargers.
I mean, their one fan is going to be mad at you.
No, he's still pissed off that they moved out of Qualcomm Stadium. So, and he's probably still holding on. He's out there trying to take his wrenches and whatnot to steal his seat back.
Now, I want to say is that the Chargers though is don't sleep on their running game.
No,
they actually have the potential to have a pretty good one. They made some key additions on their offensive line, Rashawn Slater being a big one. So I'm kind of curious about that.
Eric, we lost you again. Yeah, we lost you again. That's unfortunate because you were in the middle of a really good point too. And that's unfortunate. I really apologize for the technical difficulties here tonight, guys. It doesn't usually happen with us. Andy jumping in here with another quality question here. Predictions for any UDFA that can make the roster. I haven't actually taken a really good look at the UDFAs yet. Been just busy trying to get everything taken care of with buying a house. Eric is back here. Do we got you, Eric, again?
I don't know. I wasn't.
Yes. You're
so
you're
the Chiefs, their run game is built because they're able to pass. They're able to have a pretty solid running game for that. The Raiders they want to, but with the offensive line questions, I'm not so sure. Alex Leatherwood was a good pickup for him. And the one thing is, as much fun as we made for the Raiders for the draft when we were alive for it, Alex Leatherwood wasn't a bad pick for them. He wasn't getting much farther. He wasn't getting to the second round. He wasn't getting past the top 20, 24, 25 picks or so. Trying to remember exactly where. I think it's 26 is the spot that he was being pegged to go. He wasn't going to make it much farther. If they wanted him, they needed to take him there. And I don't think they were able to really trade down either. There was a lot of teams that wanted him. He was big, he's versatile, and he's got more athleticism than people think. Like, he was well liked in NFL circles.
Well, and like you said, he's versatile because there was a lot of people that said that he could potentially slide into guard. Now, I'm not sure what that leaves him with the
well,
right
he played guard at Alabama before moving out.
And then he moved to left tackle. Yeah, he did play guard. I forgot about that. So
on the technical difficulties a little bit. Sorry, guys, I got a new audio enhancer, and it seems to be giving me some kickback with my mic. And it's not the thing; it's still picking up on that. It's just something with StreamYard, our streaming service that we use, just doesn't seem to like it. So I'll have to take some time to figure that out after we are done.
Yeah, apologies for that, guys. Andy jumping in here. I was just about ready to grab this. As far as predictions for any undrafted free agent that the Broncos had that could potentially make the roster, I've not dove into the undrafted free agents yet, guys. Like I said, just been busy trying to get the house taken care of. It's kind of taking a little bit of a break as well. I know that Drew Hillman. Yeah, I was going to say there he is. Richie Rich coming in here. That right tackle we signed. Eric, this is your bread and butter here. The late round guys, the undrafted free agent guys. Why don't you speak on the undrafted free agents just a little bit and potential anybody that could make this roster?
Well, I mean, there's only one that I think that really has the potential to make this roster, and that's Andre Mintz. I like Drew Hillman, but he's one of those guys that he needs a little bit of time to develop on the practice squad before he makes a roster. Andrew Mintz, I don't think he's better than Jonathan Cooper exactly, but I think he offers up more than Jonathan Cooper does, and I like him a lot more than Derek Tuska. He's the one that I think that has the chance to do there to make this roster. He's got a lot of good pass rush moves to him. Got to work on that run defense a little bit. We don't know how he's going to do in coverage because he just wasn't really asked to be used in space a lot. But he's bulky. He's got good power in his hands. He's got some good pass rush moves. He's got what it takes to come in and make an impact immediately as an edge rusher and make a case for the roster. Anyways, he's the one who I think has the best chances.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. Let's see here. I don't see any other super chats. Nothing else I want to grab here really fast. Savage Boy jumping in here on Twitch. Let me just grab this and direct him. Thoughts on the Broncos releasing Juwan James? We broke that down at the beginning of the show. So after we are done live here, go back and check that out. Don't want to rehash that because we've got about 14 minutes here or so before we got to get out of here. And we still got to break down the ugly for this Broncos schedule. And let me just get started off by saying that stretch towards the back end of the schedule, after the bye week, the Broncos have 5 out of their last 7 games in division. They play the Chargers coming out of the bye. They have the Chiefs right after that. They have, let's see, is it 2 Detroit? Versus Detroit versus Cincinnati. And then they have the Raiders, at the Chargers, and then against Kansas City to close out the schedule. 5 out of your last 7 games inside the division. That is massively brutal, especially with Mahomes, especially with Justin Herbert. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible stretch of the season for the Broncos.
Yeah, that's definitely the big ugly for ending the game. I mean, it's a double-edged sword for them. If they're not in a position to really compete for the division at that point, I mean, that gives them a chance to get back in the running for it. And what I mean by that is not necessarily not a chance to compete, is that they're farther down the standings and they have a chance to get back into it because you have all these games against divisional opponents. That's what I'm meaning by that. But it's a lot of tough games, a lot of divisional opponents, and division games are always tougher than you think. So that is definitely the big ugly for it. And then my other big ugly, and I kind of had a couple points, is that all 17 games that the Broncos have this year are with teams that had a better turnover differential than they did last year, which that just kind of blows a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to have a worse turnover differential than the Broncos did last year, considering they were literally last in the NFL. And it wasn't close, guys. Like it wasn't close.
That was my point. That was my point.
But I'm just kind of elaborating on it. Like Denver was, I think it was like 6.
-16.
Yeah, negative
5
16.
more, -11 or 12.
Yeah.
One of the two.
it was 5 or 6 more total, like on the turnover differential. That's that's really, really bad. When you're losing more turnovers than you win, at one a game, losing one more turnover a game than you're collecting, like that's, again, we said it earlier. If you have 32 turnovers and only 16 takeaways, you're not going to win a whole lot of football games, guys. It's just plain and simple. Those are the facts. Like the turnover differential is one of those statistics that will never lie to you ever. Like it's one of the stats
it's one of the sets that does the best at predicting outcomes of games.
Mm-hmm. It really does, and it will sometimes lie to you because sometimes a team will catch a break, throw 2 interceptions, only get one, or like recover a fumble. But because they're playing a really bad team like the Denver Broncos, for example, that can't move the ball and do anything with those extra possessions and put points on the board, yeah, you'll see a lot of that. But I think it's like 75 or 80% of the time you win the turnover battle, you win the football game. Like it's that high. Seriously, turnover differential is one of those statistics that is really going to steer you in the correct direction. Actually, you know what, Eric? And I know we hate doing this. I hate doing it just because it's so hard to really kind of predict it. Let's run through the schedule one time. Let's just do a quick prediction of the Broncos record. If you're feeling up to it, or you got something else ugly here, because that's the ugly thing to me. Like that's the only ugly thing to me is that stretch at the end.
Who's that quarterback?
Well, as of right now, the Broncos are splitting at 50-50, so it's a coin flip. And if you're going to ask me, coin flip. If you're going to ask me, I think that it all depends, obviously, on how Drew Lock plays. But I think that the coaches, the coaching staff, knowing that their jobs are on the line, if Teddy Bridgewater is not turning the football over in training camp and Drew Lock is, just plain and simple, they're running with Teddy. And I think that Teddy's the safer option. I think that he's probably the best option for this team moving forward, unless Drew Lock takes that next step, which we all know how I feel about that. So let's do it with Teddy. And actually, we could do one with either, because if the Broncos start Drew Lock, they're probably going to go 1-5 in their first 6 games, and Teddy's going to be playing anyways.
So okay. So give me a starter. I'll give you a record prediction.
Let's run Teddy. Run Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Bridgewater is the starter. I think that the Denver Broncos, they will get between, I think, 6 and 9 wins with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. He's safe enough to help you win some games, but he's not good enough to help you take you over the hump against some of the competition that the Broncos are going to be facing.
I think 9 wins would be. This defense is good enough. The weapons are good enough. With Teddy, if he's not going to turn the football over, I mean, and that Carolina team, they're not nearly as good. They got decimated with injuries too. The offensive line was terrible, and Teddy really didn't have an opportunity to, in my opinion, to really kind of work within that offense. And everyone's like, oh, well, Drew Lock's going to have the obvious leg up because he's been a year in this system. Well, Teddy Bridgewater spent 2 years in this system when he was in Minnesota, and Pat Shurmur specifically was one of the reasons why Teddy Bridgewater was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. Like he knows the system. He's been in it. He's done it. He played at a pretty decent level doing it too. Like there were talks about Teddy having that year 3 jump, and then he rolled out on a bootleg in training camp and blew his knee to smithereens. So like there is definitely something to like there with Teddy here. It might take him a little bit to get on the same page with all of his receivers and stuff like that, but it's not necessarily the big leg up that you think it is. Teddy, as far as he doesn't turn the football over and the offensive line can protect him and he can get the ball out efficiently and effectively, I mean, middle of the road offense with a top 5 defense, and you can't win 9 games. Man, I don't know about that.
I definitely agree. I mean, all they need is a quarterback to be they don't even need to be in the top half of the NFL in quarterback play. They just need somebody to not be bottom 3 in every advanced statistical category. Whether it's Drew Lock taking that step, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater, it doesn't matter. That's what they need. That's what this team is built for. They are built to get those wins that way. So somebody asked, I think George did, about with Drew Lock. Now with Drew Lock, to me, he's such a high variance of a player that I think that the low floor for him is probably 5 wins. I mean, he just turns the ball over, and he cost the Broncos games last year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Mm-hmm. He cost the Broncos games last year, and about cost them a couple more that they managed barely to hold on to the win.
Yeah.
But I think if he takes this step forward and is able to be as just a top 16 to 22 quarterback and protect the ball a little bit more, I think he's able to do enough to help you win more games, not cost you as many. And I can see them getting about 10 or 11 wins out of him. But he's just such a high variance player, and week to week, you just don't know what you're going to get out of him.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, look at what happened in the Chargers game in Denver last year, where the Broncos had that massive comeback, and it was sparked by that 55-yard Philip Lindsay touchdown run. I mean, like, he was playing very, very, very poorly in the first half. Let's just say it like that. Let's call a spade while we're here. Like, he was one of the reasons why the Broncos were losing that game as bad as they were. Justin Herbert came out on fire, but then in the second half, Drew Lock started to get a little bit more comfortable. Joey Bosa was gone, so he wasn't under nearly as much pressure, and that plays a role in it as well. But when Lock started to play at a high level, they went out, rattled off 32 points or something like that in the second half, and came back and won that football game. So, like, that's the variance. That's the game within the game there. And Drew Lock has just those so inconsistent flashes. Like, I said this a while ago. He's like that light at the top of the tallest tower in New York City that just flashes once every like 30 seconds to warn oncoming planes that there's a building coming up in front of you. It needs to be more like a street light at 6 o'clock in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, where they flash and flash and flash and flash because they're not actually turned off, but it's a more repetitive flash, and you're seeing that more. That's where Drew Lock needs to get in my mind. He needs to have those more consistent flashes instead of just a little spark or a flicker of a on the outside looking in, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's got to have that more consistency. And if he does get there, like Eric said, I mean, he's got a high ceiling. He can drive down and win you some football games, and he could win 10 games. But if he doesn't show those consistent flashes and he continues to turn the football over, we're talking 4 wins maybe. Like, it's just plain and simple.
And it's not like, and I hope that he takes a step forward. I don't think he's going to take this huge step forward to be a top 16 quarterback in the NFL. That would just be such an extreme step that we've never seen before. But at this point, I mean, it seems like you're going to be rolling with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. And I think that it's weighted, the competition is in favor of Teddy Bridgewater. He protects the ball better than Drew Lock does, though, yes, last year was a bit more problematic, but that offensive line in Carolina was absolutely atrocious, and they didn't have the best of weapons there. Whole bunch of issues there. Just didn't have that. But this is a coaching staff that they know that they're coaching for their jobs, and Teddy Bridgewater is the easier path to that than Drew Lock is.
No, I don't disagree with you on that one. Veach jumping in here on Twitch. What's up, dude? Tom Brady didn't particularly protect the ball last year. Just saying, he was a lot better than Drew Lock was. I mean, he didn't lead the league in interceptions in only 12 games, and then he turned around and won a Super Bowl. So, I mean,
he's talking about Teddy Bridgewater. TV.
Oh, Teddy. Okay, I was like, Tom Brady. What are you talking about? Teddy Bridgewater wasn't that bad though. He didn't lead the league in interceptions last year. He didn't even throw double-digit interceptions. I don't think he threw like 7. So that literally half of what Drew Lock threw in more games. I
mean, he fumbled quite a bit, but again, I watched the games and did a lot of work on Teddy Bridgewater and everything, seeing what it was. And yeah, some of the issues, some of the interceptions, some of the fumbles, yeah, they're his fault. Obviously, it's going to be his fault.
Yep. But
he had quite a few interceptions get tipped by his receivers into defenders' hands, and
Locke had a couple too.
And Locke had some too.
Yeah,
and then the fumbles a lot of it was the Panthers' offensive line. Like, he had such a poor time to pressure. I mean, it was the fastest time to pressure for against Carolina than any other team, and it wasn't particularly close. It was like almost a full half-second difference. That's a big deal.
And that's why they went out and readdressed that offensive line position heavily in the draft. They took 3 players on the offensive line this year? I don't remember exactly. I know they had a lot. They also took a couple of weapons too to stack on top of DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. They went out and they got who was it? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was Shai Smith is who they went and attached to that for a slot weapon that they could use. So I think that was who they went with. And then they got another tight end too. I think it was Hunter Long. Regardless, they rebolstered and they put some weapons around Sam Darnold, and that might be the best supporting cast Sam Darnold's ever had in his career. So, I mean, with the upside that he has as number 3 overall pick from a few years ago, the Panthers might actually be a pretty legit team this year. So, I mean, they might win 7-8 games, something like that. A couple more here before we get out of here. Kind of a slow night tonight, guys. We appreciate you guys all for joining and watching and conversing with us. We really do. I got another one from Veach here. This is a good point, too. If the Broncos somehow learn to win close games, we'll have double-digit wins no matter who is the quarterback. I think I just lost Eric again. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. if the Broncos do somehow learn how to win close games, we'll have double-digit wins no matter who is the quarterback. I agree with that. The Broncos, I think, had the highest number of games in the NFL that was decided by one score or less, and they had the worst record of any team that had, I think it was more than 4 or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but I know that the Broncos had a lot of close one-score games, and if they figure out how to turn that over, I mean, you flip that record, they're 11-5 in a playoff team and not 5-11 on the outside looking in the top 10 of the NFL draft. So,
yeah, and I want to grab this comment is how about we not compare Drew Lock to one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game? I mean, that is just such a false equivalency there. It's unbelievable that people still make it. And yeah, Peyton Manning had a rough year, but he showed a lot more flashes than Drew Lock did. And Peyton Manning, then following his second year, turned around and led him to 13-3. So, like, he made the proper progress over time. Drew Lock didn't.
The one thing, and
again, stop with that comparison, man.
Well, it's also, you got to think they're as a rookie, they are coming on to the number 1 overall draft pick. They are a bad football team, bad talent around them, and they're going to struggle. They really are. The Buffalo Bills, they were not a great football team when Josh Allen came in, and he needed to really grow, but he was still effective using his legs to move the football. Like, Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions, but he was still effective moving the football as well. Like, he wasn't that bad. Like,
yep,
man.
I mean,
he also set the rookie passing yard record that year as well, and I think he set the rookie touchdown record as well. Like everyone's like, oh, he threw 28 interceptions. You guys would have dogged on him. He was the best rookie quarterback in history, literally, on a 3-13 football team. Like, it was a bad team. I mean, there are just so many false equivalency, different era. Like, it's just not a great comparison to make. It's like throwing in John Elway in there. I mean, you got to look at the eras. There's so many different things to it. It's just not the best. And before we get out of here, because we're going to get out of here, it's a slow night, and it's actually my wife's birthday too, and it's date night for her, and so definitely got to get out of here. I just want to grab this comment real quick. If Drew and Teddy play like garbage this year, we get Ritter at next draft. What do you think, Eric? Hey, if he makes the proper progress to actually be worth a first-round pick, I'm all for it, man. I love what Desmond Ritter can bring to the team. He's just got to show consistency with his technique and a lot of improvements with his read. A little slow processor, but at the same time, he still gets to the right place. I mean, his eyes move a little bit slower than you want him to. Big body. Love this kid. I think that he's going to be a steal next year. He might actually work his way into the quarterback 2, quarterback 3 conversation. I really do. I like Desmond Ritter a lot. One other quick thing before I wrap us up here, Eric. Trill Williams got waived today with a failed physical designation. What do you think about that? I
think the failed physical explains why he fell in the draft. I'm not sure what it is. But there's definitely something medical there with him, and until that gets fixed out, I'm not going to touch him. But it's bad enough for him to fall undrafted. That's the big thing.
Yeah, that does make a lot more sense, though. You're absolutely correct. The failed physical designation does make a lot more sense as to why you went undrafted. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for us. We're going to get out of here so that Eric can go celebrate his wife's birthday. Make sure you tell her that I said happy birthday, Eric, and that we appreciate you for being able to come out and do this. Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of a special day for her. So anyways, guys, let's see here. That's going to wrap us up, Dove Valley Deep Divers. You guys can find me on Twitter at Sanderson MHH, for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also, guys, while you're at it, follow at DVDD_pod. That's the easiest way to keep up with what's going on with the Dove Valley Deep Divers. That's where we announce what we're going to be talking about. If you guys have any questionable takes or anything you want to tweet at us at DVDD pod, we both get those tweets as well. So come at us there. Facebook users, make sure that you guys go to facebook.com/milehighhuddle and become a supporter. Click that blue become a supporter button. You guys are going to get premium content like the Trickle Zone and like Kellerman's Corner. Now, Eric, are you doing Trickle Zone this week?
Yes.
What do you got going on for Trickle Zone?
We're going to be talking about the rookie expectations for the rookies.
Nice. There you go. That's going to be really fun. I want to kind of spoil a little bit on that and talk to a little bit more about Baron Browning, but I'll let that go for right now. Also, let's see here. John, I'm going to grab this really fast for you. From you, guys. While you're at it, first off, follow Buana Beast at John KMHH. We always gotta plug that on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. That's the podcast account. That's where you guys get everything that you guys need to know about the Huddle Up Podcast Network, including building the Broncos Mile High Insiders and of course the Huddle Up Podcast. That's where you're gonna find that. Also at Mile High Huddle, that's the mother account. Breaking news and analysis on your Denver Broncos from your favorite personalities at Mile High Huddle, like myself, Eric, Nick, Carl, Chad, Zach. The whole gang is there at Mile High Huddle. Is the easiest way to get all of that. Let's see here, guys. There's 3 things everybody should be doing by now. I mean, we've been doing these live shows. At least Eric and I have been doing them. We're coming up on 100 episodes, so we're well over a year into this project by now. If you guys aren't subscribed on YouTube, at least, or wherever you guys find your podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, doesn't matter. Wherever you guys are watching this, subscribe to Mile High Huddle, please. It helps us grow in an immense way. Get in front of as many Broncos fans as possible by subscribing. Like every video you guys see, and if you love it, share it, please. That really is the easiest thing. Share every video you guys see to all of your Broncos fans, friends, and help us grow this massive project. I mean, I'm very proud of the organization that we have. This staff, we do a really good job of bringing and doing it. Like, without you guys, we couldn't do what we love to do, which is cover the Denver Broncos. So, I mean, those three easy things: subscribe, like, and share. Now, Eric, before we get out of here, you got anything else for me, man? Any last words?
Yeah, hopefully my mic is fixed next time. I'm not sure what it is with StreamYard disconnecting it. Going to be trying to figure that out. And hopefully I don't have any issues with it during Trickel Zone tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, thank you guys for joining. I'll make sure that I tell my wife you all said happy birthday, and she'll be appreciative of that. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next week. And I'll see some of you guys tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll try to jump in on the Trickel Zone and see if I can't hang out for a few minutes and see how that's all going, because I'm really curious as to your expectations for Javonte Williams, Quinn Miners, and the rest of the Broncos draft class. Obviously, Pat Surtain's going to play a lot. We know that, and Vic Fangio said that he was going to play in the nickel. We've got a press conference that came out earlier today, so there's going to be some instant coverage for you guys regarding the Denver Broncos as far as Vic Fangio spoke, Javonte Williams, and Pat Surtain spoke, so we'll get some content out for you guys at milehighhuddle.com. That's going to wrap us up here, guys. You all stay safe. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, before we get out of here, I'll have to say it. Go Broncos.